Hello Year 3, welcome to this RE lesson. This is Mr. Harris. Today's date is the 3rd of March 2021 and our learning objective for today is to find out about Joseph and how he came to be in Egypt. And a couple of success criteria that we have today. The first one is to sequence the story of Joseph, and then we're going to consider what Joseph might be feeling by the end of the story. So who is Joseph? Who can remember this family tree from last week? See if you can pause the video and find Joseph in this family tree. That's right, there he is. He is the son of Jacob and Rachel. Jacob was the grandson of Abraham. God had promised Abraham that he would make his descendants into a great nation. Jacob believed God's promise too. He raised his 12 sons and his only daughter to know about the God of Abraham and Isaac. In the story we read in the last lesson, we found out how God changed Jacob's name to Israel. His descendants became known as the Israelites. And today we're going to be reading about Jacob's favorite son, Joseph. Are you ready? Jacob's son. Jacob was a Hebrew who lived in Canaan. He had 12 sons. He was very sad when his wife Rachel, who he loved very much, died. Rachel was the mother of his 2 youngest sons, Joseph and Benjamin. Jacob's favorite son was Joseph, and he gave him a special present which was a coat of many colors. Joseph's brothers were jealous. They hated him because their father loved him the most. One night Joseph had a strange dream. He told his brothers how they had all been in the harvest field tying up the corn, when their sheaves of corn bowed down to his. Another time Joseph dreamt that the sun and moon and 11 stars were all bowing down to him as if he were a king. He told his brothers about his dreams, but they were very cross. They guessed that the dream was about them bowing down to Joseph. One day Jacob asked Joseph to go to see if his brothers were safe. They had been away for a long time in the fields where they were looking after the animals. When the brothers saw Joseph, they wanted to kill him. But Reuben, the eldest, said they should throw him into a deep pit instead. Soon after, some merchants came by on camels. They were on their way to Egypt. One of the brothers said, "Let's sell Joseph to make some money." So they pulled Joseph out of the pit, took his coat, and sold him for 20 silver coins. The brothers dipped Joseph's coat in goat's blood and took it to their father. Jacob thought Joseph must have died. He was very upset. Joseph, meanwhile, was sold as a slave to a rich man called Potiphar. He worked very hard as a slave and was soon put in charge of Potiphar's house and other slaves. Sadly, Joseph was soon in trouble again, but he was not to blame. He upset Potiphar's wife and she made up lies about him. Joseph was put in prison. While he was there, 2 men who had worked for Pharaoh were also locked up. They both had strange dreams, and Joseph told them what they meant. Later, Pharaoh had strange dreams too. No one could tell him what they meant. Okay, we're going to stop there. That was the first half of the story of Joseph. He was the favourite son of his father Jacob, but his brothers were quite upset with him, so they sold him as a slave. And he worked very hard as a slave, but then he ended up in prison because he upset Potiphar's wife. We have some storyboard cards here, and I would like you to pause the video and try to arrange them in your mind in the correct part of the story. So which card is going to go first, and then sequence them in the correct way that the story went. Okay, so the correct sequence is this. First of all, we had Jacob giving Joseph a special coat because he was his favorite son. And then Joseph had 2 dreams. He had one about wheat and one about the stars. And his brothers felt that these dreams were about him and that they would have to bow to him. So they threw him in a pit, which is in the 4th picture. And then when they saw some merchants coming by, they took him out of the pit and sold him to the merchants. And then he had to become a slave, which is picture number 6. But as a slave, he worked very hard, and so he was put into the house of a very rich man. But then the rich man's wife told some lies about him, and he had to go to prison, which is the picture number 7. Joseph is not having a good time, is he? He's in prison, and he's a slave, and he lives in Egypt, and he's in a very strange place. So how do you think Joseph would have felt when his brothers sold him into slavery? How do you think he would have felt being taken to the new strange land of Egypt? Do you think it is fair that Joseph is in prison? And I would just like you to pause the video and have a think. What do you know about ancient Egypt? What did the ancient Egyptians believe in? They believed in some different gods, didn't they? They had many gods for different purposes, Ra, the sun god, and all these different kinds of gods. And how was that different to what Joseph and his family believed in? If you go on Teams today, you will be able to find your RE assignment, and you have to think about how Joseph is feeling by the end of the story. So the worksheet has a few thought bubbles here. I am really sad because, I wish that, I am worried that, I don't like being in prison because, so you have to fill these out. And a couple more down below. I think Egypt is, and I believe that God will. So try and complete these thought bubbles for me, and I will check your work later on. Good work, guys.